As mysterious as FNAF is, we usually have a good idea about who we play as in the games. We usually have strong hints that point us in the right direction, and recently we've even outright seen and heard our protagonists during gameplay. But there is one exception to the rule. Okay, well, FNAF World is tough since it is somehow tied to a canon game, so we're not even sure what or how it is canon, but we'll just go if you play as an entity created to help accomplish Happiest Day. That's pretty non-controversial. And FNAF AR's gameplay doesn't really have a story, so the protagonist's identity doesn't really matter, even if the gameplay is even canon in the first place. But besides those examples, there is one mysterious outlier among FNAF protagonists, Jeremy Fitzgerald. In my last video, I made this sprite to represent him. Now you might think I'm joking, also look at the date of this upload, but this is going to be a very serious theory video with no jokes. So what do we know about Jeremy Fitzgerald? His main significance in the lore is that he seems to be strongly implied to be the victim of the bite of 87. We know at the start of FNAF 2, the animatronics, specifically the new ones, are allowed to walk around during the day. We also know that the bite of 87 is what made them no longer allowed to do so. Then there's the last time we hear about Jeremy Fitzgerald. He's tasked with watching the animatronics to make sure they don't hurt anyone at one last birthday party. He's also instructed to wear his uniform and stay close to the animatronics specifically. It's worth noting he would most likely be staying close to the toys during the birthday party, since the Wyverns are in part in service and the toys are on the show stage. After you finish the night with this phone call, you see a newspaper clipping that says the new location is closing and that the new animatronics are being scrapped due to possible malfunctions. Also, night 7, we're playing as a different character, so for some reason, Jeremy can't show up to work. So, to put 2 and 2 together, it seems pretty strongly implied that Jeremy being told to stay close to the dangerous and haunted toy animatronics to make sure they don't attack anyone could be related to the possible malfunctions that the toy animatronics were scrapped for, especially considering the game takes place in the year 1987, the year where a bite happens. So while we can be pretty sure that this important event happens to Jeremy Fitzgerald, we don't really know much about his actual character. However, there are a few details I believe can be used to parse out his personality a bit. On night 1, Phone Guy is talking about how the toy animatronics are tied into a criminal database to detect predators. Now if you think about the context of the FNAF 2 location, it's being opened shortly after the missing children incident, and Fazbear Entertainment needs to make a convincing effort towards safety to reopen. Phone Guy starts talking about how committed to safety the company is after he mentions that the old location gave people a negative impression of the brand. So therefore, the toy animatronics are supposed to be protecting kids from any potential danger. Interesting, Phone Guy mentions this. Heck, we should be paying them to guard you. Now I think this could be Phone Guy joking that Jeremy Fitzgerald looks like a kid. Of course he gets attacked by the animatronics, so he has to be a teenager or an adult, since the animatronics aren't hostile to actual kids. A big part of Jeremy's character seems to be that he's incredibly reckless too. He keeps coming back night after night, even as things get more dangerous. He even works his most dangerous night shift when the location is closed, and he's not even supposed to be there. He also presumably works at the last birthday party like instructed, and at that point I would say it's be reckless to not immediately quit after being told to stay close to the homicidal robots you've been trying to avoid all week. There is an interesting note that Jeremy doesn't tamper with the animatronics, so he doesn't seem to have an unusual amount of interest in the paranormal at Freddy's. In fact, he doesn't seem to have much prior connection to Freddy's based on how much Phone Guy explains to him. So while Michael's motives for staying for more than 5 nights are him trying to find out why everything is so crazy at Freddy's, Jeremy's doesn't seem to be motivated by that. In fact, I think we can see what motivates him based on his actions. Specifically, Jeremy Fitzgerald is broke. Jeremy is reckless because he works at every opportunity no matter the danger, even to the point of ignoring the company's own warnings not to work, just to get that bit of overtime. And you know who fits all of these personality traits? The Scout from Team Fortress 2. This theory has already existed as a meme about the bite of 87. It merely comes from this one comic panel where Scout mentions dying in 1987. Was that the bite of 87 from Markiplier and bam, funny meme. But this theory goes so much deeper to the point where it is basically confirmed. First of all, do you know what the Scout's real name is? That's right, Jeremy, the same as a frontal lobeless Mr. Fitzgerald. The connections don't stop there though. Scout perfectly fits under Phone Guy poking fun at Jeremy for looking too young. Scout is constantly being made fun of for his baby face, and it works logistically since Scout is an adult who'd be attacked by the animatronics but would still look young. Then there's Jeremy Fitzgerald's recklessness to get a paycheck. Now, to get into further evidence, we're going to actually have to get into TF2 comic lore. If you haven't read them, they're pretty good, but be warned because it has been left on a cliffhanger for a while. Also, spoiler warning for the rest of the video, although any TF2 comics plot point will sound completely insane and incomprehensible out of context. Now, I think we can pretty safely say that the Scout is pretty reckless. He works as a mercenary who kills people by running around them with a shotgun and a baseball bat. But is he reckless enough for a paycheck like Jeremy Fitzgerald? We know the TF2 mercenaries get paid pretty well, but they eventually all get fired and would have to rely on their investments to survive. However, Scout's financial situation is unique. You see, Scout invested all his money in a get-rich-slow scheme by buying Tom Jones memorabilia to resell at a higher price when Tom Jones died. Now, funnily enough, this might have actually worked since this soldier kills Tom Jones around the same time and blames it on his wizard roommate. However, Scout is unable to retrieve his merchandise because he is cornered by the authorities and arrested. While he is later rescued from being hanged, think about it, his assets were likely all seized since he was literally arrested right next to them, so Scout is broke. So it makes sense that Scout would look for a new job, a dangerous security gig, at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Now you might be wondering at this point why I'm so confident in using a Valve character for a FNAF theory, but we do know that Scott Cawthon and Valve are in contact. FNAF games are all published on Steam, Valve's game platform, and we also know that Scott contacted Valve directly when refunding FNAF World. There's also Half-Life 2. Now, Freddy Fazbear with me for a minute, but FNAF 100% has roots in Half-Life 2. Now, when you know the FNAF lore and the Half-Life lore, you will begin subtly seeing it in ways I can't explain, but you'll just have to trust me. In fact, when you kill Combine soldiers in Half-Life 2, they flatline. Wait, I believe Mike victim. The flatline doesn't necessarily mean they died, it could actually be a red herring that, however, these connections are most obvious in Nova Prospect. In this Half-Life 2 chapter, you're breaking into a Combine prison and research facility, just like Sister Location and the Nightmare Experiments. The area is covered in floors with these checkered patterns that should look familiar to any FNAF lorehead. We see these same checkered patterns used throughout Freddy Fazbear Entertainment properties, such as all iterations of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Fazbear's Fright, and Circus Babies Entertainment and Rental. And you know what else is in Nova Prospect? There's these TV monitors, which you can use to view security cameras to gather more information to benefit you in gameplay. I think we can see it's pretty obvious Valve games and FNAF are connected. So Scout fits all the criteria for Jeremy Fitzgerald's character, but there's even more that connects the two. Let's look at the timelines of FNAF and TF2. In TF2, the latest events in the storyline take place in 1972, ignoring some non-canon shenanigans. And in FNAF 1, Phone Guy implies there have been Fazbear animatronics for 20 years since 1993, which is 1973. So interestingly, the TF2 timeline ends right where the FNAF timeline begins. Now you might be thinking, Willy Whitewool, what about Fall Fest? We know it happens in 1970, so that kind of disrupts your theory. Well, you see, what does happen at Fall Fest? Yeah, right, next question. FNAF and TF2 even have similar locations. The FNAF games are set in Utah, where TF2 is set in New Mexico. Both states are pretty close to each other, so there is proximity for Scout finding him out about Freddy's. In fact, the TF2 universe has so many other interesting parallels to FNAF that they're not even parallel anymore, they're perpendicular. The main conflict of TF2 is between the two brothers, Redmond and Blutarch Man, or Red and Blue Man. There's also their mysterious third brother, Gray Man. Gray Man's goal is to obtain a mysterious material called Australium, which can be used to increase his lifespan and make him immortal. He manipulates his family and builds further robots to further his goals. He also has a daughter who is loyal to him and his schemes, who is associated with the color green. Also, he's British. Now, FNAF has a purple man who wants to obtain a mysterious material called Remnant to be immortal. He manipulates his family and builds robots to further his goals. And he also has a loyal daughter whose green color scheme is so powerful it persists after death. Also, he's British. Now, I've presented a lot of evidence for my case, but if you need more, or require additional, correct, I've got the ultimate piece of proof. The one the whole theory relies on, this comic panel. Now I'll go into the context of this with my TF2 comic lore knowledge. December 1972, Scout has just died fighting robots and goes to heaven. In heaven he meets God and learns that he was literally created to be God's gift to women. Because Scout didn't actually be God's gift to women, he is sent back down to Earth for another 15 years to do that. Which leads to this comic panel. you might think that this can't work because the Bite of 87 victim doesn't die, but look at what Phone Guy said in FNAF 1. It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know? Now, I don't think Phone Guy's wording suggests the Bite of 87 victim is still alive, just that they survived the initial bite. And I think if you get lobotomized, you'd get hospitalized. So it's not unlikely that Scout would die and return to heaven after the Bite of 87. The timeline even works out too. FNAF 2 happens in November 1987, and I will not take any criticism on that. There's no chance it can happen to anything but that summer impossible. And Scout is supposed to die December 4th, 1987. It all makes sense. And his name is literally Jeremy. Hey, hope you all enjoyed the video. So, except for the part at the beginning about why Jeremy Fitzgerald is strongly implied to be the Bite of 87 victim, this video is an April Fool's joke, just so that's clear. I think that part at the beginning, that is my actual thinking, but, like, besides that, joke, bit.